The Buckeyes have the number 2 ranked recruiting class in America, and this spring they're looking to grow this class and take over the number 1 spot from LSU. And in this video, I got Ohio State insider Matt Parker on the show to talk about the Buckeyes' top priorities as we head out of the dead period. Dead period ends Monday. Visits will start taking place again, and all is well in the recruiting world. We're going to break it all down today, but first, Ohio State fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We love talking Ohio State year-round on this channel. It's all recruiting, so go ahead, jump on board, and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring on Matt Parker from Letterman Row. Now, as I said, Ohio State sitting with 8 commitments in the number 2 spot, but there is a lot of room to add more. I want to talk about a couple of Ohio State's spring priorities. We'll start at the top here with Dorian Brew out of the state of Texas, 5-star corner. Ohio State is doing a great job recruiting the DB position already this cycle. How big of a priority is Dorian Brew right now, and who do you see the main competitors in this one?
I mean, you look at Dorian Brew, the 4-star cornerback out of Conroy, Texas, and for Tim Walton, that's the last big piece of his puzzle at the cornerback position, Josh. Ohio State Dorian Brew had a commitment date set for January 24th, I believe it was, and had he not postponed that, he would be an Ohio State Buckeye right now as we speak, and Ohio State's cornerback class would be solidified and done and over with. But as it goes in recruiting, nothing ever happens to plan, as we all know. Pushed back the commitment date, actually postponed it, hasn't rescheduled one yet. And now the Buckeyes are facing some steep competition. A lot of different schools have entered this race for Dorian Brew, specifically Texas. I look at LSU, and USC has emerged as a contender in this race for Dorian Brew. The one-time in-state prospect for Ohio State is out in Texas, and the competition is tough for Ohio State as we move forward into these spring visits.
All right, up next on the list, we have another 5-star wide receiver, Jamie French, out of the Jacksonville area. And, of course, the in-state Florida teams are battling, but if there's one team right now that kind of stands out, I feel like it's Ohio State. How important is it for Ohio State to get him back on campus this spring, and does he have a visit scheduled?
Yeah, Jamie French, the 5-star wide receiver, will be on Ohio State's campus March 30th, which is a pretty significant date for Ohio State. A few big-time visitors are going to be there as well. Ohio State linebacker prospect TJ Alfred is going to announce his commitment that day. So March 30th is going to have a big stake for Ohio State as we look toward that date. But that's Brian Hartline's top wide receiver prospect right now, top wide receiver target, if you will. And getting him back on campus is paramount for this 2025 wide receiver group, which is, starting to take place. That board is really starting to take shape. Ohio State has one guy in the mix already with Javen Boggs out of Cocoa High School, who he's blowing up on the recruiting trail right now. I feel like every time you go on Twitter, he's announcing, 6 new offers, Josh. Yeah. But Jamie French right now is the guy for Ohio State and for Brian Hartline.
Absolutely. Always fun to see who Hartline zeroes in on, and there's no question Jamie French is that top target right now. All right, moving back to the defensive side of the ball. Safety Fem Delane, a one-time, this one is thought it was going to be Ohio State early on. What's happening with Fem Delane's recruitment? And I saw that he set some spring visits. Does Ohio State get one?
Ohio State should get one. He doesn't have one scheduled as of now. But I'm not real worried about that, Josh, to be honest with you. Ever since Ohio State parted ways with Perry Eliano, the former safeties coach, brought in Matt Guerrieri, who is very familiar with Jim Knowles' system, followed Jim Knowles at Duke and Oklahoma State as the new safeties coach now for the Buckeyes, there was some concern that relationship with Ohio State and Delane would drop off because he was very tight with Perry Eliano. There might have been a hiccup at the very beginning, but ever since then, Ohio State has really picked it up. Myself and my colleague, Alex Gleitman over at Letterman Row, we both have predictions in the On3 recruiting prediction machine for Fem Delane to pick Ohio State. And I stand by that as we sit here and record that. I just think what Ohio State has done with Matt Guerrieri taking over this recruitment, Tim Walton being involved, of course, and then head coach Ryan Day has really planted himself in this recruitment as well. So I like the Buckeyes to get it done with or without a spring visit.
All right, big news there. Now that we're in the month of March, today is March 1st. It is officially, the countdown is on for TJ Alfred, the linebacker out of Vero Beach, Florida. He is set to make a decision. I believe it's March 23rd. He's going to make it. So a couple weeks from now, Ohio State seems to be the favorite. What are you hearing? What are your sources saying on TJ Alfred?
Well, right now, it's either going to be Ohio State or it's going to be Miami. Those are the two schools that have really emerged at the top of this race, Josh. And I like Ohio State to win this one. The Buckeyes promoted James Laurinaitis from graduate assistant to linebackers coach. And for me, when that promotion happened, that was the move that solidified in my mind that TJ Alfred is going to commit to Ohio State. The relationship that those two have developed, which started in the summer of 2023 when Alfred camped at Ohio State, worked out with Laurinaitis in a private workout session once the camp was done. Just that relationship that those two have built together over these last, 6-7 months has really, really shown to me. And I think now that Laurinaitis has a permanent home at Ohio State, that really just sealed the deal for Alfred, and we'll find out at the end of the month.
All right. Well, the last prospect I want to talk to you about is at another position in need, at the edge position, Damen Shanklin out of Indy. Notre Dame heavily involved there. How do you feel about Ohio State's chances, and when do you expect a decision from Shanklin?
Well, this is a pretty interesting recruitment to me because Ohio State visited with Shanklin during the winter contact period in January, and Ohio State has not yet offered Shanklin. That I am expecting that to change, however, because Shanklin is making his debut visit to Ohio State March 7th, this coming Thursday, I believe that is. And I would expect Shanklin to leave Columbus with the offer in hand. Shanklin has told me a couple of times that Ohio State is his dream school, which for some, that might be that curse. You hear that all the time. That cursed dream school is a real thing. But for edge rushers specifically, just what Larry Johnson, his resume, I mean, we talk about this pretty often as it relates to Ohio State. Shanklin gets that Ohio State offer, and I think the Buckeyes start to make some noise, some serious noise in this recruitment. Notre Dame is, I would say, in pole position right now for Shanklin. He sounds like he has another visit to South Bend already on the calendar. So Ohio State does have some ground to make up, but I expect that offer to come on March 7th once Shanklin gets there. As far as the decision goes, I think with a guy like Shanklin who, just announced an LSU offer, and I would expect Georgia and all of those big powers down south who, have all the talent in the world down there, creep up to the Midwest and start offering guys. I would expect some official visits to happen in June as, par for the course. And then I wouldn't be stunned if just, knowing the Midwest, I wouldn't be stunned if Damen Shanklin makes a decision before his senior season starts and he's done.
Yeah, it sounds like his recruitment is still getting going. Like you said, some major offers. There's a lot of interest, but those major offers still could be coming, and that could kind of delay things if he wants to take a couple visits. So we'll be interested to see what he has to say about that offer after he takes the visit. The last thing I want to talk to you about was Ohio DB, four-star Trey McNutt. I see a lot of rumors of a potential suspension from the governing body in Ohio. What's going on right now with Trey McNutt versus the Ohio high school legislation?
Right. So what we're talking about here is Trey McNutt participated in a 7-on-7 event in, I believe it was Florida, if I'm not mistaken. And per the Ohio High School Athletic Association rules and guidelines and everything like that, that's against the rules. Simply put, there's a certain time in the calendar year where that can happen for
now.
Ohio,
We're talking 7-on-7. We're not talking full pad football, right? We're talking 7-on-7. They outlaw these guys from playing 7-on-7 in the offseason.
That is correct, Josh. Until the certain point in the year when that can happen, June, I believe, is end of May in June, but it has to be in state. That's how this works. A little bit behind the times, if you will. And so now for every, I believe this is correct, but for every 7-on-7 event that he participates in, that warrants a 1-game suspension. So right now, Trey McNutt out of Shaker Heights will miss week 1 of his senior season. And
But
if he
he could
continues,
enroll and play in like a rec basketball league in the spring. That's allowed, but he can't enroll and play in like a 7-on-7 league. That means nothing.
that is correct. If he wanted to, he could play AAU basketball. He could play travel baseball. He could do anything else. But as it relates to football, that is not the case.
So how do you see this playing out? Does Trey McNutt end his 7-on-7 career early so he can play high school football in the fall? Or do you think he shows up for another 7-on-7 event this summer?
Oh, I fully expect him to continue to do 7-on-7 events. And I don't blame him. There's been a lot of, he's making a big push to change the rules as it relates to Ohio athletes, Ohio football players. And there's a lot of in-state support for him as well. I mean, I've seen a few different Ohio State commits kind of support him and just be like, hey, do your thing. We're supporting you. This needs to change.
Yeah.
And I agree with him. The biggest thing, though, this was something that happened on the Letterman Row message board the other day. Someone asked, does this impact his recruitment with Ohio State? Absolutely not. If anything, it's more reason for Ohio State to recruit him because they see a guy who to better himself. And that kind of thing sticks out to a program, especially when it's an in-state, guy, an in-state prospect, Josh. So I expect him to continue to compete, to get better, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. Worth keeping an eye on, though. All right, Matt Parker from Letterman Row, thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop today. Talk a little Ohio State recruiting.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel, and also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.